Hello, one and all, and welcome to the first installment of Ranting and Racing. Now, some of you are wondering what this show is. This is a show where myself and my dear friend Landon Rock will sort of walk through the week of motorsports, ranging anywhere from NASCAR to IndyCar, IMSA, Formula One. We may even go outside of that realm from time to time. And this is an idea that has had its roots before the pandemic. So, without further ado, I shall bring my co-host on screen here. Everybody say hello to Landon Rock.
Hello.
Hello. So I guess we'll start at the top here, talk about, sort of our racing history, because the folks who are watching this, they know that they know that I'm very prevalent here in the Tardan Media Network, but not all of them know about my racing fandoms. So this year will mark 20 years since I have started watching racing, and it'll mark 20 years since I've started watching racing. I still remember the first race I ever watched, which was the 2002 fall event at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Jamie McMurray, who is one of that one there's favorite drivers, in just his second ever Cup start, went out, won his first race in just his second start ever in the Cup Series, and held off the man who was 2 years removed from winning the Cup championship, Bobby Labonte. And this is one of the things that'll stick with me till the day I die. I remember seeing McMurray doing his burnouts, and I looked up at Mom and I looked up at her, I said, why is he spinning out like that? And like I say, it's just one of those things that'll stick with you forever. And that seeded my love of motor racing. And it's only grown from there. And now it's going to manifest itself with this show. And I cannot wait to finally get this thing off the ground. So, Landon, tell the folks a little bit about yourself as well.
So my name is Landon. I've been a race fan my whole life. It was introduced to me as a kid. I watched it with my family, my brother and my mom. The first time I really remember racing was like 2006. I remember Kane having a really good year. But I actually went to my first race in, I think, 2005, Richmond? No. 2004, maybe? It was whichever one Dale Jr. won. In the 8 Bud car. I remember that. I left halfway through, but I think my mom stayed. But yeah, that was it. It's just grown from then. I've gotten into the designing part of it now. I've started to design race cars. I go by Captain Online. That's my persona, I guess you could say, over there. But I love it. I read about and watch it all day long.
That's me as well. So now that you know a little bit about the motor heads with motor mouths, we can pivot from there into the racing part of this and let it go wherever we decide to take it. So first thing on the docket, of course, is the race that is coming up this weekend, the Busch Clash. Now, normally, the Busch Clash is held at Daytona International Speedway, usually a week, 10 days before the Daytona 500, but that is not the case. This year, NASCAR has gone outside the box and has built inside of LA Coliseum a quarter-mile bullring type track. And the Clash is a little different this year also in that normally the field size would be capped at 20, 25 cars, things like that. And it will still be that way in a way, but now everybody has the chance to try and race their way in. And one of the things that me and Landon and our other friend addressed in a sort of a preview stream last night is that with the part shortages that has been coming down the line in terms of just overall everything, uh, would teams be willing, I should say, to take that risk? Would they want to take that risk and junk a car that they would more than likely have to turn around and use as a backup car in the Daytona 500? What do you think? How do you think this is going to go, Landon?
I don't know. I think it's going to go one of two ways. I think it's either going to be a wreck fest because they're just not going to know how to drive a that small of a track with those big of cars, or people aren't going to take risks because from what I've read today, it seems like some of these drivers are going to be using their test cars, which don't have all of the full next gen updates and everything. So
wow.
they're literally riding on hopes and prayers on some of these cars. So I don't know. I think they're going to take it easy, personally.
Well, taking it easy as much as they're on a quarter-mile racetrack with no room for error whatsoever. But yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting. I won't say wild because it could wind up being a total dud for all we know. But it's just gonna be more interesting than anything, seeing how these guys tiptoe around, if they tiptoe around at all. I mean, it, like you said, it could very well be a wreck fest, and with a lot of these guys using the cars that they built for testing and all, it's really gonna be, like I say, just really interesting to see how this fires off and how it is received and all. And furthermore, looking ahead to Daytona, if someone junks their car in LA at the Clash, how fast are they going to get that thing turned around for Daytona? Because that's just in a couple weeks away, 2-3 weeks away until the start of Speed Week.
2 weeks,
so yeah, so that's going to be something that is very interesting, and we will give our Clash predictions later on in the show. So, second item on the docket is the trend continuing of just, famous people getting into racing. And this is one that has been sort of a meme in the racing community for the last 3 years at this point. But earlier this week, it was made official. Floyd Mayweather, yes, the famous fighter, is starting a race team. Old Floyd Mayweather is starting a race team. It will debut at Daytona. Kaz Gralla out of Massachusetts will be driving the car, and this is the car in question. And when I said, because we got to talking about this in the preview stream last night, I said something to the effect of that car looks like Crayola throwed up. It literally looks like Crayola throwed up, but it's going to be another car added to the lineup, which is good because everyone was worried at the time, going back to the parts shortages and all, and teams building the Gen 7 and all. The fear was that we wouldn't get more than 40 cars for Daytona. We wouldn't send nobody home in qualifying for the 500. So the Floyd Mayweather team is officially official, as you can see it there. The car the scheme is definitely something. It is definitely a
It's
thing,
right.
and yeah, that's not much more than you can say about it. But they've got a good driver beneath them in Kaz Grala. We've got, like I say, we've got another big name sticking their neck out on NASCAR. So uh, let's talk a little bit about this now and talk about how it feels to have these big names coming back in, because obviously we've got Michael Jordan, who owns half of 2311, which is Bubba Wallace and Kurt Busch's team. We've got Pitbull invested into Trackhouse Racing. And now we've got Floyd Mayweather's team getting up off the ground and actually going to see the light of day. So in this era, well, I shouldn't say era, but in this time where folks are peeling the bells talking about how NASCAR's popularity is declining and it's not as popular as it was from the mid 90s to the mid 2000s, to see these big names coming up and joining into the sport, what do you think might be the future of this? And do you think the future is in good hands in that regard?
I think the future of the sport's definitely in good hands. If you look at who was it? Might have been Pockers that tweeted it. He said that there's like 70% of the people going to the Clash, this will be their first ever race. So
Yeah.
I think the popularity is going back up, and it's names like Pitbull and names like Michael Jordan and money that are, bringing some of these people back in. And I love the trend that's happening right now. Trackhouse is one of my favorite teams, like, of
Yes.
all time. I love what they're doing. I love their attitude. I love, the schemes, everything. I love everything. I love Suarez. I love Chastain. Trackhouse is awesome. 2311's going in a good direction. Bubba got his first win last year at Talladega. That was huge for that team. And they got Denny Hamlin. So that team's going to be around. I don't know about Money's team. If you read the press release about Money's team, it's basically Starcom. And
Is
that
it
group.
really?
So I don't know. Yeah, I just feel like it's Money's name on it, but it's not actually going to be that great of a race team. I would love to be wrong personally, but I don't know. I have some suspicion about it.
Now, this I didn't know. I didn't know that they had basically purchased the assets of the old Starcom team, and they're, running that team as is. But, we've seen how someone big coming in like that can boost a team. I mean, just look at when Tony Stewart bought half of the Haas team after 2008. Look where they are now.
Haas was shit, and now Stuart Haas is a championship winning team.
Oh yes, and they're only growing from there. And so I'm, like I say, I'm very interested to see how Money's team goes. I know they're very closely affiliated with Richard Childress Racing. They'll be running a limited schedule this year. I think the official announcement said it was 15 races for the 50 team in 2022. They'll be focusing on the road courses, which is a big positive because Kaz Grala kind of has that background, that road course racing background. And I wish him well. And I think
same.
that I think, like I say, this could be the start of a really big trend. And I know that, Trackhouse is wanting to go past 2 cars. 2311 wants to go more than 2 cars in the future. And who knows, maybe if we look up in 5 years and we see that Money's team is a fringe playoff contender, it wouldn't surprise me at all. So very much looking forward to that. Yes, very much looking forward to that. And I'm keen to see how Grala does in making the 500, because in the limited cup starts that he's had, he's been superb. He had a fast run in his starts with Colleague last year, filled in for Austin Dillon I think 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago at the Daytona Road Course? Was inside the top 10, was threatening for the top 5, and then I think had an engine go south or transmission issues or something like that. And that
he finished 7th.
He finished 7th. He actually stayed. See, that
he got a top 10.
Yeah, that Mandela effect. I thought he had broke something. I thought he had like blown the motor or tore the transmission out of it or something. Of course, I'm lucky to remember last week, much less 2 years ago. But we will. Yeah, Grala's gonna get it. Grala's got the best chance he's had. And I know there's a lot of people, especially recently, that have been really on their soapbox for Kaz to get a full-time ride. And I've been one of them, I will admit. Kaz is one of those types.
I'm one.
Yep. Kaz is one of those types where he can just get in anything and take off with it. He's just got that pure raw talent, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see how
I'm a big fan of Kaz Grala.
Excels in the Cup Series. So we will now go from Floyd Mayweather to the Rolex 24 and the news and happenings inside of it, and a finish to the Rolex 24 that you don't need, that type of finish that you don't really see in sports car racing all that often. So Helio Castroneves won the Rolex 24 again. The man is, we talk about Tom Brady, how long he's been in the NFL, and he's just now hanging it up. I would say that Helio is just starting to catch a second wind. He is starting to catch a second wind. He's coming off of his 4th Indy 500 win last year, becoming just, I think, the 4th driver to ever win 4 Indianapolis 500s. And like I say, he's coming off of this win here in the Rolex 24 in just an absolutely batshit finish down at Daytona. I think it came down to the class leaders. It came down to the class leaders in the one of the other divisions crashing
GTD
out.
Pro.
GTD Pro. So it came down to the class leaders in that division getting together, and that set the stage for, like I say, it set the stage for one of the wildest finishes we have ever seen in the world of sports car racing. We've not really seen a finish. Well, we've seen great finishes in IMSA since then, but we haven't really seen like this crazy of a finish since Jan Bergmeister and who was it that got together at Laguna Seca? Like in 2009, I believe. It was Gilles de Ferran's
I don't even remember that.
It was Jan Bergmeister and one of the Corvettes. It was one of the Team Corvette guys got into it. But this was...
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just absolutely insane. And I'm trying to find a video that's short enough to show it on here, but I'm not having any luck in doing so. Oh, wait, here we go. So I think I might have the video teed up here of the finish, excuse me, to the Rolex 24. So, again, congrats to Helio Castroneves. What is he, 46? 46 years old and still out here winning races on the highest level. So, if I can get my screen shared, there we go. I show the finish to the Rolex 24. And the video isn't wanting to play, but That is no. Here we go.
Now, has the leader gone past these guys? No, he has not yet. So they might have one more go on the inside by side of the Fluff car. At the same place that he lost the lead, gets it back again. It's changed again. And Vanto has to.
So yeah, we're having some issues showing the finish to that race, but no big deal. It was still just absolutely insane between the leaders there. Again, Elio Castroneves comes through in the clutch again. Meyer Shank, by the way, is just rocking and rolling now in both IndyCar and in IMSA now. And it's just a thrill to see how that team has grown over the last several years. I still remember the first time they won the 24. I think Allmendinger was on that team, 2013 or 2014.
Yes, he was. I remember
something like that. God, and just to see how high they've risen since that time, it's just it's a true rags to riches story in American motorsports. It's a true rags to riches story in American motorsports. So we will now turn our attention. Speaking of IndyCar, we'll touch a little bit on potential IndyCar Formula One crossovers because, you know, we've seen several IndyCar drivers speaking out. It's particularly Pato O'Ward, Joseph Newgarden, Colton Herta talking about possibly Roman Grosjean. Well, Roman Grosjean's going the other way, though. Well, he went the other way, but then reversed himself again. Yeah, he went back to Formula One this year from IndyCar. But still, you know, we're seeing guys like Pato O'Ward and Colton Herta and Joseph Newgarden all saying that, you know, we would love to try Formula One sometime in the near future. So I want to ask, who do you think Mike could bust out of IndyCar and go to Formula One and have a lot of success?
I think the best possibility of someone from IndyCar going to Formula One and having a lot of success, I think it'd be Colton Herta. I think that guy just has so much raw talent and is so young that he could go over there, adapt really well, and just kill it. I don't know what team, but I think he could do it. Who
else could you see? I mean, other than Pato and Newgarden.
Alexander Rossi's a name to come to mind just because I think he loves to race and he's got a very buck wild attitude. So I don't know how that would work in Formula One, but I think it'd be cool to see. It would maybe Will Power, you know, the Aussie. He might go over there.
He could really do good. Now, turning that question around a little bit, Formula One drivers possibly going over to IndyCar. Now, I know this will likely never happen, though his stance on IndyCar has softened over the last few years. But, you know, Lewis Hamilton, it seems like every year we hear he's always getting sick with Formula One. He's wanting out. He's wanting to try something new. He's wanting to step away and do all of this stuff. If Lewis Hamilton left Formula One and tried his hand in IndyCar, I think that would be as big, if not bigger, than Mario Andretti leaving kart and going to Formula One all those years ago. I think Hamilton is the type of thing that IndyCar, IndyCar, Lewis Hamilton is the type of person that IndyCar needs in the worst way to grow an international audience. And if he did come over and landed a ride with, I don't know, Penske or someone like that, it would really put a lot of eyes on IndyCar worldwide.
Yeah.
So who do you think from Formula One would make that leap to IndyCar?
I have two names that come to mind when I think about Formula One and IndyCar. The first one is Lando Norris. I think Norris would have a fun time in IndyCar. He does. I'm not the biggest fan of Formula One. That's very publicly known. But the little bit I know about Lando Norris, his attitude and the way he drives, he seems like he would fit right in at IndyCar. So that's number one. Number two, I think Max Verstappen could make a cool intro into IndyCar.
Verstappen and Norris would really be two. And I think, doesn't Norris – see, wait a minute. Norris isn't still with McLaren, is he?
Yes, he is.
Oh, he's still with McLaren. So I know with McLaren having their IndyCar team, their ever-growing and ever faster IndyCar team, it wouldn't surprise me if we looked up at the winter test in Sebring in a couple years and saw Lando getting a shot at testing an IndyCar. So
I'd love to see it.
Yes. So we'll start to wrap this up a little bit. This will be longer, by the way, in the future. This is our first episode, and we hit tech gremlins early on, which kind of kept it from being a full hour. But nevertheless, we are trucking along, and we are persisting. So, as I mentioned earlier, we will touch on the Busch Clash here, give some predictions about who we think will win it, what might happen in the race, and then kind of turn our sights, toward early Speed Weeks predictions as well. So we'll start, obviously, with the Busch Clash. And so who do you think comes out of the Bullring Brawl victorious?
I think it's going to be Joey Logano. I don't want it to be, but I think it will be.
What makes you say Logano?
I just think Logano has that. Well, he's from New England, right? So he's got that short track modified kind of attitude. But
that's true.
I think the biggest thing is he's just going to go ham and just not care. And I think that's going to ultimately get him to the front, and he's fast.
Yeah. Though here's the thing about Logano, though, that Northeast, they're not like the South. They don't have Bowman Grays and Hickories and Caraways and things like that to run on. They've got half mile and 5/8 mile and even 3/4 mile tracks up there. Stuff that takes a lot more patience instead of just rooting people out of the way like they have in the South. Now, with that in mind, I'm gonna go off the beaten path here. And I'm gonna say that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wins the Clash.
Ricky? You think Ricky's gonna win?
I mean, you want aggressiveness?
What's the explanation there?
You want aggressiveness? You want someone that's a battering ram on 4 wheels? You want someone that'll dive bomb in there and take a chance and give no fucks in the process? Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I think, is gonna be that guy. Though his short track experience is more on dirt, but I think he'll really be a force to be reckoned with before the night is over with on, is it Saturday night or Sunday night that the Clash is happening?
I want to say Saturday night. Saturday night.
We're off to a rolling start on this first episode. Neither of us know the exact date of the race we're talking about. But Saturday or Sunday, it will happen. It will happen. So Landon has Joey Logano. I'm going a bit outside the box. I am saying Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Now,
I have a question about the Clash before we wrap that up yet.
Okay.
Interesting question here. Do you think, number one, a big name driver misses? And number two, if you do, who do you think it is?
I think a big name driver will miss, though I don't know exactly who. So what's the field size for the A main in the Clash? Do you know? Is it like 20 cars or 25?
It's 23 cars because
23.
Larson has one spot and 22 others getting it through the heat. There will be 4 heats and 2 LCQs. So there's a lot of opportunities to get in. But I do think a big name driver misses it. I personally think it's going to be Brad Keselowski. I think he's going to have a hiccup in his first race with RFK. I think it's going to mess him up.
So you think Brad, in his first time out in that 6 car, is going to miss the show? I think
he's going to have a hiccup. Something's going to happen.
I think a big name driver misses it as well. And I'm gonna, you know who I'm gonna say it's gonna be? Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch, simply because he doesn't really have that bullring type experience that a lot of the younger guys do. And I mean, he does have a lot of experience on his side, don't get me wrong, but nothing really in a tight, confined bullring space like this. So I could see Kurt missing out, and that would be a huge story if he did miss out on the Clash. So you said 23 spots, 4 heats, 2 LCQs. Larson's the only one guaranteed in. Okay.
Yep.
So that should be a very interesting set of races for Saturday night. And ladies and gentlemen, that has been the premiere episode of Ranting and Racing. Even though we had tech gremlins to start, we had to redo this twice.
We still got through it.
We got through it, and I promise you this will be longer and more involved next time, because we didn't have any guests on this particular episode. It was just myself and Landon powering through. But I say, we managed, we persevered, and now all we have to do is tell the folks goodbye. So thank you, one and all, for watching this and coming out and showing love on the first installment of Ranting and Racing. This has been a wonderful time, and I'm so happy to finally get this thing off the ground after 2 years of waiting on it. So for Landon Rock,
yes,
all of us here, I am John Phipps saying so long until next week.